Welcome to WhiskyCast, cask strength conversation featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this is episode number 1140 for December 21st, 2025. Coming up in a few minutes.
We firmly believe that bourbon is nature distilled. By nurturing our land and respecting our waterways, we not only create the most complex and flavorful whiskeys, but we also ensure the long-term consistency and sustainability. And the Estate Whiskey Alliance aligns perfectly with that philosophy.
Like many terms surrounding whiskey, there's no official definition for grain-to-glass whiskey, estate whiskey, single-source whiskey, things like that, but you get the idea what I'm talking about. The Estate Whiskey Alliance is trying to change that. It's a coalition of distillers and the University of Kentucky that will certify whiskeys as estate-grown and distilled. The membership ranges from small farm distilleries all the way up to Maker's Mark, which is using the certification on its Star Hill Farm whiskeys. On this week's WhiskyCast In-Depth, I'll be joined by Estate Whiskey Alliance Executive Director Landon Borders, along with three distillers who are part of the Alliance, Dr. Blake Layfield of Maker's Mark, Barb Stefanician-Cote of Canada's Black Box Farm and Distillery, and Jamie Walter of Whiskey Acres in Illinois. That discussion is coming up in a few minutes. I'll also have the What I'm Tasting This Week department, Behind the Label, and much more. The news is next on this holiday week edition of WhiskyCast, whiskey's longest-running and most awarded podcast series. Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory, this is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Gifting season's right around the corner. Luckily, you don't have to overthink this one. Dewar's 12-year-old, finished in first fill, unrinsed bourbon casks. It's the kind of gift that makes you look good while making them feel special. Stick around. I'll explain.
Let's begin with the week's news. It's brought to you by the Dalmore. One of Kentucky's heritage distilleries is pausing production for all of 2026. Suntory Global Spirits plans to idle the Jim Beam Distillery in Claremont, Kentucky, starting January 1st. In a statement, the company says the move is designed to balance supply with demand, and the site will undergo improvements during the year. Bottling and warehousing operations will continue at the site, while the visitors center and restaurant will remain open for tourists. Beam executives are holding ongoing talks with the union representing distillery workers to determine whether layoffs will be needed. Production will continue at the Booker No Distillery in Boston, Kentucky, and the Fred B. No Craft Distillery on the Claremont campus. Meanwhile, the founders of Never Say Die Bourbon are planning a micro-distillery and brand home in the middle of downtown Lexington. The $4 million project received Commonwealth tourism tax incentives this week, totaling $1 million. The project could begin in early 2026. It's a long way from Whistle Pig Farm in Vermont to Louisville's Bourbon District, but the owners of Whistle Pig have opened a tasting room and visitor experience in the old Security Bank building at 4th and Market. The Whistle Pig Kentucky experience will include bespoke tastings, including a high-end tasting held in the former bank's vault. In other news, whiskey is the UK's leading food and drink export product, and the volume of whiskey exports declined by almost 6% during the first 9 months of 2025, according to the Food and Drink Federation. The report is based on revenue and customs data and shows whiskey exporters experienced a value decline of 0.4%. Total exports of UK food and drinks gained 5.8% over the previous year. The story is brighter for Irish whiskey, where exports rose by 3.6% in volume during 2024 and 13.6% in value, according to a new Board BIO report. The IWSR says Irish whiskey volumes grew 2% during the first 6 months of 2025, even though exports to the U.S. fell due to tariffs. The U.S. is the largest single export market for Irish whiskey. The UK, India, and Japan all recorded sharp increases over the previous year. Mark Anthony Group founder and CEO Anthony von Mandel is stepping back from day-to-day management after 53 years. Vice Chair Phil Rossi will become the second CEO in the company's history. Mark Anthony Group owns Barefaced Canadian Whiskey and Glendalough Irish Whiskey, which is a sponsor of WhiskyCast. Just a handful of new whiskeys to mention this week as we hit the holiday downtime at many distilleries. 2025 marked the 200th anniversary of the Old Middleton Distillery, and Irish Distillers has released a 28-year-old single pot still whiskey under the Middleton Very Rare label to wrap up the year's celebrations. It's priced at $1,700 a bottle. Heaven Hill has released the fall 2025 edition of Old Fitzgerald Bottled in Bond. This bourbon is 11 years old and was distilled in the fall of 2014. The limited edition bourbon is priced at $160 a bottle. I received a sample this week, and I'll have my tasting notes for it in a few minutes. Chip Tate is back in the whiskey business. His first releases since joining Foley Family Wines and Spirits as its master distiller for innovation are bottled under the Ampersand label. Ampersand Malice is a blend of 51% American rye whiskey and 49% Calvados apple brandy. Vinia is a blend of 75% American rye whiskey and 25% grain-neutral spirits aged in XO cognac casks. And Optimus is a 15-year-old Kentucky bourbon finished in Tokai wine barrels. It's priced at $150 a bottle, while Malice and Vinia are priced at $59 each. I received samples of all three this week. I'll have my tasting notes for them soon at whiskeycast.com. Virginia's KO Distilling has released Bare Knuckle High Rye Bourbon Hazmat Edition. It's bottled at a whopping 71.2% ABV and is available at the distillery's tasting room in Manassas, Virginia for $139.99 a bottle. And finally, we couldn't resist another Raccoon-approved Virginia Distillery Company whiskey. They've released a 7-year-old American single malt finished in a port wine cask. Proceeds from sales of this whiskey will benefit the Wildlife Center of Virginia and the Nelson County SPCA. Naturally, it's bottled at a Raccoon-favored cask strength, 59.8% ABV. They're also selling Raccoon-approved T-shirts through the end of December for charity, and each online purchase comes with a Raccoon-approved sticker, too. You can keep up on the latest whiskey news all week long at whiskeycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. The news is brought to you by the Dalmore.
Hello, Richard Patterson here, Master Distiller, Master Blender for the Dalmore. You know, whenever the team and I are in the world sharing our exceptional single malt, we like to keep in touch with Mark Gillespie and the latest news from WhiskyCast.
Let's open up the calendar now and see what's happening around the world of whiskey. The Scotch Whisky Experience in Edinburgh, Scotland has its annual Distillers Fair on December 29th and 30th, featuring distillers from all over Scotland. Wyoming Whiskey hosts a special steak and bourbon dinner on January 9th in New York City. The 9th and 10th brings us the Harrow Whiskey Festival in London, England, and TasteX, the London Food and Drink Experience in London, Ontario. And the annual Victoria Whiskey Festival is coming up January 15th through the 18th in Victoria, British Columbia. I hope to see some of you there. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll add it to the calendars at whiskeycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app.
Hey again, it's Gabriel from Jewers. Every holiday has that moment when the food's done and the talking, laughing, and sipping begins. That's where the perfect gift shows up. Jewers 12-year-old. Finished in first fill, unrinsed bourbon casks, and crafted by 6-time Master Blender of the Year, Stephanie McLeod. It's the highest rated 12-year blended scotch out there. A gift that speaks for itself. Because holidays aren't about the gifts we keep, they're about the ones we share. Please enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025, Dewar's is a trademark. Imported by John Dewar & Sons Company, Coral Gables, Florida. Blended Scotch whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume.
WhiskyCast In-Depth is brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey. History tells us that the early distillers were farmers who distilled their grain into whiskey to make it easier to store and trade. The legacy of those early grain-to-glass distillers is alive today in the growing number of farm distilleries where the grain is grown near or at the distillery, and the farmer benefits from both grain grown for commodity use and grain for distilling. Last year, the University of Kentucky and a small group of modern-day grain-to-glass distillers started the Estate Whiskey Alliance to both further the practice of estate distilling and help consumers find certified estate whiskeys. Our roundtable includes Estate Whiskey Alliance Executive Director Landon Borders, along with Dr. Blake Layfield of Maker's Mark, Jamie Walter of Whiskey Acres Distilling, and Barb Stefanishin Cote of Black Fox Farm and Distillery. Landon, first off, let's talk about what the Estate Whiskey Alliance is and what it does.
Hey, Mark. Happy to do that. The Estate Whiskey Alliance was formed just a couple of years ago and launched in August of last year. Really, as a partner-led organization supported by the University of Kentucky and dedicated to advancing, discovering, and promoting the virtues of estate whiskey. This wasn't our idea. This was really our partners that brought to our attention that there was a category of whiskey that's extremely important, but is largely undefined. And we found that it was a good idea to band together with some founding members and form this organization. We really have 4 pillars of our mission. First was to really create a consistent definition of estate whiskey and what that means. Secondly, to certify products with a authentic, globally recognized certification mark, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. And really also to provide transparency to consumers on ingredient sourcing and sustainable production methods with our products and the way that our members go about their production processes and growing their own grains. And finally, to reinvest in research and education to shape the future of this really important category.
I want to get the three of you to talk about your distilleries for a second. We'll start with Blake. I think we all know what Maker's Mark is, but tell me how you guys fit into this, because Star Hill Farm plays an increasing role in your grain-to-glass production, right?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And for your listeners, my name is Dr. Blake Layfield. I'm the Master Distiller and Head of Innovation and Blending for Maker's Mark. And Maker's Mark decided to get involved with the Estate Whiskey Alliance for some really specific reasons. From the very beginning, the Samuels family and Maker's Mark have recognized nature's essential role in crafting our whiskey. And that's why we established the distillery in Laredo, Kentucky, on the 1,100 acre plus Star Hill Farm property, because it gives us direct access to natural lakes on our property and is prime central for great Kentucky farmland and local grains. And we firmly believe that bourbon is nature distilled. By nurturing our land and respecting our waterways, we not only create the most complex and flavorful whiskeys, but we also ensure the long-term consistency and sustainability. And the Estate Whiskey Alliance aligns perfectly with that philosophy. The EWA specifically highlights distilleries that demonstrate exceptional quality, sustainable practices, and a profound connection to the terroir around their distilleries. So this certification mark should serve as the global standard for single source whiskeys, which is a really unique and distinct differentiator in today's current marketplace, especially when we think about American whiskey. So our involvement with the EWA has been mutually beneficial. This collaboration is not only fostering a new growth category for global whiskeys, but is also positioning Star Hill Farm as a leader in this exciting new segment.
And to be clear, your Star Hill Farm whiskeys are the only ones that will carry the Estate Whiskey Alliance seal, right?
For now.
Might we see it on Maker's Mark someday if you can grow enough grain there?
That is something that we are working towards, but we'll see how it goes.
Jamie Walters from Whiskey Acres. Tell us about your distillery, first of all, and then what you get from being part of the Estate Whiskey Alliance.
Sure, Mark. Thank you very much. My name is Jamie Walter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Whiskey Acres Distilling Company. We're located in DeKalb, Illinois, so about 60 miles due west of Chicago. I'm actually a fifth-generation farmer. Started farming here with my father in 2020. In 2000, excuse me. And we have been, along the way, always in grain production. So corn, soybeans primarily. Over time, I was always kind of an entrepreneur and had an interest, along with my father, in doing something value added. So we were interested in taking the grain that we were growing, rather than just producing it as a commodity, and instead changing it into something that had a direct-to-consumer application, take advantage of our location close to Chicago, and really take advantage of the very high-quality corn that we were able to grow here in DeKalb. Your listeners some of them have seen the logo of the DeKalb seed corn. So hybrid seed corn was invented here in DeKalb. We often refer to ourselves somewhat tongue-in-cheek as the Napa Valley of corn. And it's really what we focus on. We also grow all of our own wheat, rye, and barley as well that we use in our products. So everything that we grow and make is our own. So all of our distilled products are 100% grown on our land, 100% using our own ingredients. So we have never sourced a drop of whiskey or grain from anyone else ever. And so we're kind of the true embodiment of what we think is an estate whiskey. We were using that term long before the Estate Whiskey Alliance came along. And when we were approached by Landon and Alexa, we said, yes, this is absolutely something that we want to get involved in. We really do see the value. We always have seen the value, but we needed a louder voice. And so, the EWA allows us, together with our peer distillers in this segment, this niche of the market, to really amplify what it means to be an estate distillery, to create some sort of a framework around that enables us to communicate that to the consumer in an effective and transparent way. And we couldn't be happier to be a part of that.
And let's finish up with Barb Stefanishin-Cote of Black Fox Distilling and Farm in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. You are the reigning IWSC Worldwide Whiskey Producer of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mark. It was a real surprise. We're very thrilled to have won that recognition, and it's another way that we can actually promote estate whiskeys and let people know about it, because just like Blake and Jamie, we too are grain to glass. We at Black Fox like to say crop to connoisseur is what we say, because it's a chance for us to showcase our terroir. It's a chance for us to show off all of the good things that we grow here, and take it and give that transparency and authenticity back into the industry. And customers right now, they want to trust where their beverages are coming from. And how better can they trust it by having a certifying body that says, yes, they are doing what they are doing. So being a member of the EWA is fantastic. And we jumped on real quick. We became one of the founding members. I remember speaking with Landon I heard him give this presentation of this group that was starting the Estate Whiskey Alliance. And I said, do you need any more founding members? And he said, well, maybe we need one from out of the country. And I went, perfect, I'm in. So that's what got us involved right off the bat. And exactly what you've heard earlier, this is something that we believe that will give the customers confidence. And we're all behind that.
Landon, tell me what the Estate Whiskey Alliance mark is that's going to go on. It appears on their whiskeys already, but will appear on many more in the coming years.
Yeah, so the Estate Whiskey Certified mark is meant to acknowledge that the whiskey products, which has the mark on it, does meet the criteria for estate whiskey certified. And by definition for, that we go by, that is that all production processes, including milling, cooking, fermentation, distillation, barreling, aging, and bottling, all occur on the estate distillery, and that at least 2/3 of all mash bill grains are grown on the estate or estate-controlled land. The University of Kentucky, which is where the Estate Whiskey Alliance program is facilitated, owns trademarks for estate whiskey certified for both spellings of whiskey. Those trademarks are filed in 5 jurisdictions: United States, Canada, UK, the EU, and Japan, and with consideration towards growing more in other jurisdictions. To date, we have 14 certified products and more in process. But the vision here is that a customer can walk into their local liquor store or retailer, walk down the whiskey aisle and see that mark and have a lot of confidence about its origins and its production methods and sustainability aspects of the farm distilleries, and know exactly what they're getting.
Is this the only way we can really get terroir into whiskey, is by growing the grain at the distillery or on estate-controlled land? And I'll throw that out to anybody that wants to answer.
I'll defer to one of our distillery members here.
I'd like to jump in on this one because I do think it's one of the most authentic ways of doing it and tracing it back. Everybody understands that terroir does exist in whiskey. It has to do with the different grains. It has to do with the terroir really encompasses all of those elements that come together that influence a flavor. So it's the climate, it's the weather, it's the topography, but it also includes the varieties that people choose to grow and how they fertilize it and how they harvest it and how they store it afterwards, that all influence those wonderful and unique flavors that come together. And so is this the only way of getting terroir into whiskey? No, I don't believe so, but it's a way that customers can really be assured that that's what they're receiving.
And if I could offer one build, because I think, Barb, you touched on some really salient points there. I think terroir is something that is clearly recognized in many other categories. So you think about wine. For years, the wine industry has been talking about terroir and how even certain hillsides and the amount of sun they get can impact the flavor of a certain vintage. However, the whiskey industry has been somewhat resistant to this idea. And I think it's due to an outdated notion that the barrel does all of the work. So people view grains as a commodity, that it is a byproduct or just simply an input that has no real impact because it's all about the barrel.
Or the water, yeah.
Or the water, and older means better, and that's literally the only thing. And I think that is a very outdated and inaccurate notion that we have to actively work to dispel. That the grains that you choose, i.e. the varietal, where they are grown, i.e. the local climate surrounding the distillery. So the EWA certification looks at 75-mile radius around the distillery. And the practices, the agricultural practices you use to farm. So for us at Maker's Mark, we use regenerative agricultural practices. We believe that all of these things in combination lead to deeper, more flavorful, rich, and complex products that make us unique and distinct from our competitors, because we commonly tell people we're really transparent about everything that we do at Maker's Mark. But you couldn't take our mash bill, our distillation parameters, and our maturation processes, put it somewhere else, and make Maker's Mark. It would not taste the same, and that is due to the terroir influence. So I think that's something that the EWA is working really hard to articulate for our customers and consumers all over the world.
Jamie?
Yeah, well, building on what Blake said, I think, when you look at the industry as a whole, especially the larger players, when the only tool you've got in your toolbox is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And right now, because of the way they purchase their grains on a commodity commingled basis, it's by the train load, the truckload, everything comes from many farms, all through intermediaries where it's all blended and mixed together. So the only way they have to differentiate is, like Barb said, it's the water, it's the aging process. The grains themselves are treated as kind of the redheaded stepchild. And we're here to tell you that just like grapes and wine, it makes a huge difference. And our logo, or our motto here at Whiskey Acres, is that great whiskey isn't made, it's grown. And we truly believe that. And so as farmers, we have been involved in the genetic side of the business for a long time. We've been raising seed, selling seed to other farmers. We have several thousand acres here under tillage. And I would say that our farm, maybe even more uniquely than some of the others, has a level of technology and data granularity that others don't have. Everything that we do is using precision agriculture. We soil test, we fertilize, we plant seeds at the individual plant level. We use regenerative agriculture in many of the techniques and practices that we do, and we document, we overfly with satellites, we take up drones, we map, we record, we have weather results, and that's compiling a database for us that helps us not only say that there's terroir involved, right, but begin to define it. It's this variety from this soil, given these climatic, kind of variables, and we're beginning to get to the point where we think we can measure and predict flavor. Now, we're a ways away. There's a lot of research yet to be done in this area, but we're quite proud to be a part of that movement, and we think it really matters.
Let's explain regenerative let me get my mouth working here. Let's explain regenerative agriculture, just for those who do not understand what it is or are not aware, because not everyone's conversant with the ways of agriculture these days. Please explain.
Well, my grandfather, who's long since deceased, would probably, if he heard that word, he would try to simplify it and say this: you take care of the soil will take care of you and your family. Right. And ultimately, that's really mostly what it gets back to. It's instilling practices at the farm level, whether that be reduced or no tillage, trying to increase the levels of organic material and carbon sequestration in the soil, reducing pesticide use, doing things to reduce erosion and lower fertility needs. All those kinds of things are practices that go into a concept that's somewhat ill-defined, right? Regenerative agriculture is somewhat vague, and it's a bit all-encompassing. But I think the way to think of it is there are sustainability initiatives that are implemented at the farm gate level that help build the soil and build the environment in a climate-friendly way that will last generations.
Yeah,
and I think that's something. Oh, go ahead, Blake.
Oh, I was just going to add, because we're also certified through an independent third party called Regenified for regenerative ag. So there's a lot of different ways that you can currently define it, but it is a USDA process verified system, and the USDA looks at 4 primary soil health management principles: minimizing disturbance, maximizing soil cover, maximizing biodiversity, and maximizing the presence of living roots. And for the average consumer, that means nothing to them. So why does that matter to you? You hear us talk so much about the importance of water quality. And I'll speak for Kentucky. Kentucky sits on a limestone shelf. That limestone shelf, it removes iron, which can make whiskey black and acrid. It adds in calcium and magnesium, which can lead to really fruity, fervid fermentation. So if those micronutrients are really important in your water, why wouldn't they be just as important in your soil? So we believe that the right farming practices, more nutrient-dense crops, makes more flavorful whiskey. So, I mean, that's really how it connects to them, as we think it adds that complexity, that depth, and it simply tastes better when you have the right farming practices.
Barb?
That's a really good way of summing it up. And regenerative ag is looking after your soils, looking after the entire process right through. And it includes a bunch of different practices, but what I like best is that every day we're going out and doing something a little bit better. That's the whole idea behind it. And, minimum till is something that we have been doing for decades around here. It's just, that's what we do. And I think in a way, Jamie and I come at it from the farming side, because we were farmers first, whiskey distillers second. And we recognize that by doing the good things for the crops, we were actually, creating these really flavorful grains that could go forward. And it's really neat to see, Blake and his organization that are recognizing that too, because they've been whiskey distillers a lot longer than we have. And so they understand that. And regenerative ag sometimes includes an animal component. It really depends on the definition. But it's doing the right things for the soil at the right time.
And it differs from biodynamic farming.
Very much so.
Let's talk about the impact on farmers. What's in it for farmers that are getting into distilling, that are distilling now? What is for lack of a better term, the market value of distilling your own grains? Because we know that farmers are having a tough time these days. What is the market value?
Well, I guess I'll jump in here a little bit. So becoming vertically integrated and moving away from a strictly commodity production system does several things, right? One, it hopefully leads to larger margins. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, but it also reduces risk. We become a situation where we're no longer price takers for everything that we do. To some degree, we can set our own price. I mean, obviously, we have to be responsive to the marketplace and everything else, but it gives us greater control over our margins and our potential profitability. That's a key component. Now, to be honest with you, especially in the craft distilling world, our farm is still very much a commodity farm. I mean, a minority of our acreage is used in the distillery, but I can assure you that it's by far the most profitable acre. And so part of my job is to determine how do I continue to grow the whiskey side of the business so that we can run more acres of the commodity side through the distillery. The farm is almost 100 years old, and the distillery itself we're about to celebrate our 11th birthday, and it's already the larger business.
Barb?
Well, I was just going to comment too that I think
Sure.
just locally sourcing ingredients is also really important, just from a pure sustainability perspective. Getting things from residents around the distillery, which is what the EWA is really promoting, is I think really important. And just having that connection to the land does allow you to have a relationship with the distiller and not be, I think, as Jamie has as well talked about, part of the more grain elevator side. It's more of a long-term relationship, and I think that's really powerful for a farmer to have that consistency of supply and demand.
Barb?
So we were farming 5,000 acres, and we came to a crossroads in our career where we either needed to become a larger grain farm or do something different. And we did what is considered sacrilegious in our province. We sold the family farm and purchased a smaller farm closer to customers. Because if you're going to have a business that's where you're catering to customers, you need to be close to customers. What has this done for us? For us as farmers, it's been able to tap into our agricultural expertise, how we grow, what we grow, all of those types of things, and get into a market, just as Jamie says, that's a lot more profitable. We went from measuring bushels per acre to now we measure barrels per acre. And it's been an interesting transition. It's not for the faint of heart because it takes a whole different skill set to market directly to customers than we ever did before. So that has been the steep learning curve. What does this offer for farmers? It offers them another option to use their grain, to connect with the customer, to actually create a product out of what they have. So those are the options. Financially, what is it? Yes, once you're vertically integrated and you control the entire process, you eliminate a lot of the excess middlemen out of the deal. But it does come with extra costs and such. And I'm sure Jamie can concur that, you've never had to worry about the cost of bottles before. You never had to worry about, the labor that it takes to run this side of things. And don't even get me started on marketing, because that's a real interesting time and place and cost. So there are definite trade-offs, but it is an outlet for us to connect directly to the customer, and that's what appealed to us.
Landon, where does the EWA go from here?
Yeah, great question. I just want to add one more comment too about the grains. One of the things that our members have in common is that quality matters, of course, and that's the case for a lot of folks. But the fact that they control the entire process from the field all the way to the bottle provides them with that additional level of detail and controlling every quality aspect and every step along the way. And a lot of times that also results in the highest quality grains that are going to be used in the product. And as you heard earlier, terroir is really important. We believe that the flavor of place comes through in every product, and that includes the grains. And I think it's really interesting to see some of the level of experimentation that we across our membership and trying different grain varietals. And that's not the cheap way of doing things, but it does result in a premium product that demands a premium price in some cases, but in all cases, top quality. Now, to answer your question about where we go from here, I already mentioned our jurisdictions in which we operate. We're going to grow globally. We're going to add more members from across the Atlantic in Europe and the UK, and hopefully over in Japan. So you'll see some more growth there in the coming months, and also more certified products. We have the folks here on this call representing some of our first certified products, but again, more in the queue and more to come in the coming years. Again, we look forward to a day when there's an American whiskey, a bourbon, a Canadian whiskey, a Japanese whiskey, a Scotch, and an Irish whiskey, all bearing the same mark on the shelf. That's just very inspirational to us and what we would like to see in the coming years.
Thanks to Landon Borders, Dr. Blake Layfield, Jamie Walter, and Barb Stefanishin-Cote for joining us on this week's WhiskyCast In-Depth. You'll find a link to the State Whiskey Alliance website in the show notes for this episode at whiskycast.com. WhiskyCast In-Depth is brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey.
Our story begins in the wilds of County Wicklow, the Garden of Ireland, a place where nature moves slowly and meaningfully. Some whiskies blend in. Glendalough Double Barrel stands apart. I'm Rowdy Rooney, head distiller here at Glendalough, and I personally oversee our whiskey making process from start to finish. We do things slowly, and we do them right. We start with a smooth, single-grain Irish whiskey. We age it in flame-charred American oak for soft vanilla and a honeyed depth. Then we finish it in Oloroso casks from a small bodega in Spain. Casks we season and ship ourselves to make sure the wood is still alive with character when it arrives. That kind of care gives Glendalough Double Barrel its rich layers of dried fruit, warm spice, and signature smoothness. This is a whiskey at its own pace, and it's worth every second. This is Glendalough Double Barrel, crafted to stand apart.
Let's start off the What I'm Tasting This Week department with the Old Fitzgerald Bottled in Bond Fall 2025 Decanter Series. As I mentioned during the news, this bourbon is 11 years old, and of course it's bottled at 50% ABV. The nose has touches of cinnamon apples, caramel candy, honey, vanilla, and charred oak. The taste has cinnamon and black pepper notes, balanced by oak tannins, caramel, red apples, a hint of peaches, honey, and vanilla. The finish is long and oaky with lingering spices. I'm scoring the Old Fitzgerald Bottled in Bond Fall 2025 edition a 93. Next up, there really was a Buffalo Bill, and Wyoming Whiskey recently named a bourbon after Buffalo Bill Cody. I received a sample of it the other day, and it's bottled at 48% ABV. The nose has touches of caramel candy, leather, tobacco, and apple cobbler. The taste has a nice balance of red apples and black pepper spice that leads into a burst of cinnamon. Caramel candy, leather, tobacco, and vanilla add complexity and balance in the background, while the finish is long with lingering spices. I'm scoring the Wyoming Whiskey Buffalo Bill Cody Bourbon a 92. I'll be adding these whiskeys to our searchable list of more than 3,900 whiskeys from all over the world. Check it out this week at whiskeycast.com. Japanese whiskey began with Shinjiro Tori's vision to reflect the true nature and spirit of Japan. The House of Suntory was founded on these principles, guided by generations of craftsmanship that have transformed time, nature, and precision into something greater than the sum of its parts. Pure waters from the mountains of Hakushu, Mizunara oak shaped by decades of patience, a blending philosophy rooted in harmony. These aren't just techniques, they're a way of thinking, a quiet pursuit of balance and depth. From Yamazaki to Hakushu to Hibiki, every whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from and the hands that shape it. House of Suntory, the founding house of Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Let's open up the WhiskyCast community app now and see what people are talking about this week in our community segment. We've talked a lot about the problems distillers in the U.S. and Scotland are facing with declining sales, but Chris Tatzenko writes from Australia that they're having a different problem down under. He writes, everyone complains that they're selling less, but when you talk to them about opening up a new market down under, it suddenly becomes, we are focused on our existing markets. We have people wanting to buy, but it is so hard to get distillers to work with you, even when you will do all the work on imports. During the winter, I often post a photo of my so-called hockey dram on social media. It's the dram I'm having while watching a hockey game on TV. The other night I posted a photo of a vintage signatory bottling of a 1989 Kalila, and C. Don had a question. I'm interested in the whiskey, but here's the important question from a Jersey boy who knows that area you live in. Devils or Flyers? The Flyers, of course. C. Don must be a Devils fan. He was looking for the thumbs down option. To each his own. On that note, let me take a minute to wish you and your family a very happy holiday season from our entire family. Here's hoping you enjoy great drams, good conversation, plenty of good food, and no drama, not necessarily in that order. If there's something you'd like to share with whiskey lovers around the world, download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store and join the conversation. You can also connect with us on social media. Just look for WhiskyCast on X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. The email address is comments@whiskeycast.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the history, science, and people who make whiskey unique. Lots of distilleries have dogs, but only one puts its dog to work sniffing whiskey barrels. We're going to have much more on this next time around, but I wanted to share with you the story of Bacardi, which has put a robotic dog to work at its John Dewar & Sons maturation bond near Glasgow. The Boston Robotics dog has been equipped with a special ethanol sensor developed by the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland. The goal is to identify leaking barrels without having a human check each of the thousands of barrels in the bond one at a time. It's only a test right now, and the goal is to see whether autonomous inspection can be applied in different manufacturing environments. Of course, the dog has a name. Royal Barkla was named after a contest among Dewar's staff. Beats having a raccoon do the job. Once again, we'll have more on this next time around, and if there's something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just get in touch with us. That's all for this episode of WhiskyCast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskeycast.com. That's also where you'll find the latest whiskey news, my tasting notes, the calendar of events, and a complete archive of past episodes going all the way back to 2005. Get in touch with us, download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store, or find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, X, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook at WhiskyCast, and our email address is comments@whiskycast.com.
Food's gone, stories are flying, and everyone's laughing a little too loud. That's when Dewar's 12-year-old feels right at home. Enjoy the holidays from your friends at Dewar's.
Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory, this is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
WhiskyCast is a production of Cask Strength Media, copyright 2025, and comes to you from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening, and have a very Merry Christmas.